All right. We are all here, so Winnie, if you would like to kick things off, the table is yours.
All right. Well, we will go ahead and call the meeting to order. I think everyone should have received the agenda, so I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We have the minutes from our February 11th meeting. Is there a motion to approve those or any corrections that need to be made?
I didn't take Vanessa out again, sorry.
Yeah,
She's
I'm listed on there twice.
I did that now. So next time you'll be out.
Okay,
Sorry.
okay.
You just won't be on at all.
Yeah, I'll be missing.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes minus one Vanessa.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, I think we're up to the state library report.
Helps if I unmute myself. Okay, I don't have a slideshow for you this time because I've been working on other things, but quick updates based on where we were. The Fortville migration has been pushed back. We've not selected a new date yet, but obviously things are a little hectic with everything they're trying to get sorted, so it's going to be a little bit before we're going to be able to get them up and running. Right now, we're looking at late May, early June as a probable target window. The conference was canceled, as you know. We've been very busy working on a variety of COVID things, and we will continue to talk about those later. On the bookkeeping front, we've only had one bill to deal with, and that was for the Reference USA contract, and that has been presented and paid, so we're in good shape there. Speaking of which, the implementation's gone fairly well. I know they've been doing a lot of site testing to make sure everybody's links work. A few sites were found where they'd accidentally added some text to the link, or sites that flat out had chosen not to post the link at all. So they've been notifying me of those, and I've been trying to work with the libraries, try to bring things up to what they're looking for. They would also like to do some major marketing work with us later to really drive patron usage. The unsponsored minor profile, we went with the junior naming on. That was implemented, and we had libraries using it almost immediately. Things kind of tapered off pretty quickly with it, though, because we aren't actually seeing kids anywhere. But we will, I'm sure, see increased use of that once we're back to more typical business. I am getting returns on the Evergreen Indiana scholarships. I've been letting anybody know that had a non-refundable plane ticket that as long as they provide documentation of that fact, we'll go ahead and just consider that lost money, but the rest of the funds we're collecting. And that's pretty much my quick review of where we are.
Want a little training update?
What?
Do you want a little training update?
Yes, but
Okay.
Can I ask you to get a little closer to Mike?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is that better?
Much.
Okay. So Anna mentioned that the conference was canceled. We are working with the presenters to convert some of that content into virtual webinars, classes that will start that schedule in July so that people can get their things converted and we can get it organized. And then we were supposed to do our normal round of trainings this month. Of course, that got kind of weird. So we are doing cataloging starting tomorrow with basic cataloging. We split the advanced cataloging class in half. So we're doing the first half on Thursday, the second half on Friday in the morning. So hopefully that will accommodate people's weird schedule. And then I'll get the other things on the schedule soon thereafter. We are looking at upgrading in the relatively near future, which will impact some of those trainings. So I want to not give out a bunch of information that's going to change a month later. So we'll be coordinating with Lynn and Anna on that. That's what I have. Well, there's more, but do you want it right now? No.
I know everybody's looking forward to seeing some of the new course stuff drop though, so. Believe Britta is up next.
Hi, everyone. The cataloging committee, we were able to meet at the beginning of March. We got a lot done. We were able to upload a few more chapters of the manual, and we've approved a number of things for the MARC record, like using the 595 field for notes between catalogers and using the listserv, and merging combo packs. So that was a big one. It's going to take a while for it to all come together. There's a lot of merging and checking and changing parts and things like that. I know Anna has been working on it and making buckets for everyone to take a look. So it's great that that is going in. We also approved the creation of a local genre heading thesaurus. This is for headings that have not been established elsewhere. Any requests that other catalogers have to add to it will have to go through and be approved by the committee. And we've already approved two. We've included the manga and the LGBTQIA plus fiction genre headings. We also added a couple other things to the procedures guide dealing with series. And then we also clarified how to record awards in the 586 field. So it's all consistent between state awards and like national level. And I believe that's all. Doesn't sound like a lot, but we got a lot done. It was a good meeting.
It was an amazing meeting. You guys covered so much ground.
Yeah.
E-Content met this morning. Krista and Vanessa were there. Basically, the decision was not to move forward on the one issue that was in front of the committee, and that was the instant accounts from Overdrive. Some of you may have heard some of their press about this before. They initially launched a few years back, where they would base it on your patron's zip code. And of course, we couldn't do that because our zip codes cross county lines, library districts, et cetera, et cetera. They reached out to me earlier this month to let me know that they had the ability to actually use shapefiles, which are geographic information definitions that would actually match our library districts. So we could potentially, actually offer cards to people in our library districts because they would be able to tell where our library districts started and stopped. Unfortunately, we went back and forth with them at length to determine how exactly they were collecting these addresses, because their big selling point is all the patron needs to provide is a phone number. And ultimately, that's all the library gets either. And it's not enough information for us to actually be able to verify that these individuals are eligible for us to serve legally. So the committee decided to pass on moving forward with a recommendation to implement that. So that's what the e-content group did this morning. We also talked about Reference USA, of course. But that was the big one. Also, I did want to pass along, I've gotten several positive comments from libraries about member libraries continuing, even during shutdown, to continue to buy materials for Overdrive, and how much that's been appreciated across the community, because definitely demand is up. The Patron Services Committee canceled their meeting because of everything going crazy right when they were supposed to be getting together. So we ended up not meeting in Patron Services. And does anybody on the strategic plan have anything to say? No. Okay. All right.
Okay. I don't know of any unfinished business that we have, unless anybody else has anything. So we will move on to new business, the COVID-19 emergency response.
Yeah, because that's what everybody's got to talk about these days, right? Well, where we are right now is that, except for the libraries that ended up opting out, all of our circulations were extended through April 28th. Although we're open as of March 13th. And all non-reciprocal type accounts were extended through May 1st. Now, for the libraries that have gone ahead and secured statements from their partners, we have also extended the reciprocal borrower accounts, but we're having to do that on a case-by-case basis because of the requirement to have reciprocity documented. We now have libraries that are slated not to open until mid-May, so I was wondering if you would be interested in extending both the circulations and the accounts through, say, May, I was going to go with the right in the middle of the month, but May 15th is a Friday, so maybe the 18th. Scott, we can't hear you. I can see you talking.
Sorry about that. I would, this is going to be weird, but I would go through end of June right now.
I think at least at the end of May.
Yeah, I agree with the end of May.
Same here. I say at least end of May. My thoughts are, even if the stay-at-home order is lifted, I'm not going to be opening to the public probably until the end of the school, what would normally be the end of the school year, just because I'm afraid that we're going to turn into the babysitters. So I really don't plan on, even if they lift the stay-at-home order this week at the end of next week, I don't plan on opening until probably Memorial Day at the earliest.
And you really don't even if we're able to open second week of May, you really don't want everything due at that time.
No.
Right.
So I think you really want things due after you open, have a little extension onto that.
Yeah.
So I would say at least end of May.
Yeah.
I don't want to admit that Scott might be right at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to face that.
But he
Well,
may-
the only
But I
other thing is we're not meeting until June 10th, so
Mhm.
I mean,
I
just
guess we
don't
can make
wanna
it
penalize-
virtual. I'm sorry.
I was just
Yeah,
saying, we
I
can,
just don't want to penalize people right now. I
Mhm.
mean, the
Yeah.
last thing they need is their local library being jerks to them. So
Right.
whatever we got to do.
And I certainly see the logic of just extending it so that we don't have to extend it again. You know, like if we say end of May
Right.
and then we have to do it again, that seems kind of ridiculous. So
Yeah.
I
Well,
wouldn't be
June
opposed
1st
to it
is a
going even
Monday.
farther.
Yeah, if we did end of June and, say I opened up the 1st of June, it doesn't mean people couldn't bring things back. It just means they wouldn't have to bring them back until they're comfortable. And I'm okay with that too. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking Scott may be right here.
I agree.
So do we need a motion maybe?
That's just what I was going to say. Would someone like to make a motion?
I motion that I'm correct.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No second
I
on
motion
that one.
end of June. I will make the motion that we should go to the end of June.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second it. That's Krista.
Krista, thank you.
All right, there's a motion to extend accounts and circulations through the end of June, and a second. Is there any further discussion? All right, if not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, as long as it doesn't
Aye.
mean we're saying Scott is right.
Anyone opposed? All right, the motion will carry.
All right. Now on to hopefully more fun things. First up is a development project I want to jumpstart. It's one that the ECDI has talked about for about 2 years without making any real progress on it, but it's something that is becoming rapidly more critical for our community. And when I've talked to other consortia, they are in the same boat. It just hasn't really gotten a foothold as far as somebody taking charge of it. So I have put together a set of requirements for a holds type editor. And with your permission, I would like to go ahead and shop this to the development community to see if we can't get this started. What it does, for anybody who hasn't had a chance to look at it, is it means that when you place a hold and say it's a copy level hold, actually, let's go with more simple. You place a title level hold. That item or the items on that record end up all having parts assigned to them. Right now, if you have a title hold, your hold can never be filled. What this would do is make it possible to update any orphaned holds like this so that they could be targeted. It's been a really big deal, particularly as we're moving forward with merging the combo packs and all of our video materials, of course, being more and more parted in the catalog. So that's the big one. It also affects things like acquisitions work, where you order something, you don't realize you're going to need to part it until it shows up. Or if somebody accidentally puts a copy hold on something and then they realize it's going to take 6 months to get that copy in, when they could get switch it to a title level hold and get that item in within a week for their patrons. So the goal is to just make holds a lot more flexible going forward. Yeah. Let me go ahead and open up. Well, actually, let me share my screen first. That will make more sense then. Hopefully. You can see my screen now?
Yeah.
Great. So this actually has full mock-ups of 2 different versions of how it could play out. One uses a development device called Modal Dialog or a Modal Dialog box, which is part of the Bootstrap build. I'm just going to use my regular speakers while I'm doing this. And the other uses dynamic pages, which function more like what we see right now with the holdings editor. So both of these options would let you change which type of holds, and then depending on what you're switching it to, it has all the associated additional information that needs to be pulled down. So for example, if you had a title part, when you came in here and switched the type to part, it would then give you a list of parts to select from. And you would update your hold, and then it would now be a part hold rather than a title hold. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see everybody anymore. I only have a little bar of some of you, so. But do you have any thoughts on this? concerns? Would you be all right? Do I have your permission to go ahead and send this out to get quotes on it? I can tell you right now that if we can get a bid and it's relatively reasonable, I fully anticipate that we will have significant partner funding from 3 to 4 other sources without even really having to try. It'll just be a question of how much each of them can toss in based on conversations I've already had. I do expect this will be an expensive development though, so I'm hoping for numbers under 50,000.
So you're thinking like 70?
I hope not. If that's what it comes back, obviously we'll have to discuss it a lot more. But I think based on the research that I've done and exactly what fields have to be updated or funneled, new information funneled into, the hardest part will be developing the interface, not the back end. So that would be hugely helpful because all we have to worry about is getting a working front for staff that fits the bill.
Anna, remind me again what our development budget is.
That is an excellent question. Now, we have some reserves that we had set back. But right now we have $50,000 in our local development fund.
Okay.
And so we'd pay about a fourth of that, possibly, maybe less.
I'm not sure just how big a piece we would get from others. I don't know that we can expect it to be an even split.
Gotcha.
But I would say it's probably fair to say that we could get 15 to 20,000 out of partners. So we would still be the lion's share of this, but it is, we've been fortunate because we've always been able to, or to date, we've mostly been able to cobble onto other people's projects at 5,000 or so to make a difference.
I do have one thing to say about this. This is something that me and Bob do in the back end right now. So every time one of these has to be done, me or Bob have to do it because we have to update the database and figure out what all these fields should be, so we can change the particular hold. And we would love to have this done so y'all can actually change these things.
Yeah, it would be a significant time saver as far as administration at the state library goes. And kind of speaking as outside of Evergreen, Indiana, as part of the ECDI, and knowing where some of the other funding may come from, like Anna said, it probably won't be an even split, but there definitely are quite a few organizations without really even having to stretch that would likely partner with this. And the sooner action can be taken on it, the more likely it is to get their buy-in before the end of their budget years come up.
Also, I will mention, Lynn said that she and Bob are doing this sometimes. I know they're not being asked to do it nearly as often as libraries ask about the ability to do this. So I appreciate all the work that they're doing, but I know that staff would probably use this an additional 100% or 100 times what we're currently seeing because people are nice and try not to overwhelm us entirely.
Yeah.
What usually happens is someone cancels the previous hold and replaces the hold is what happens now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this would hopefully make that a much faster process, and you wouldn't have to worry about people losing their place in line after they've been on hold already for a couple of months. This isn't something that would be patron facing, by the way, in case that's been unclear. This would still require staff intervention, but it should alleviate a bunch of the issues that we have right now.
I certainly don't think there's anything wrong with getting a quote. So if you need a motion for that, I'll make that motion. Is that where you're at with it?
Sure.
I'll
Okay.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, let's get a quote.
And now the other, we have finally reached that point. Ironically, after we had talked informally on a list about going ahead with the customized Hemlock variant, I was reached out to by another vendor that is actively working with Evergreen, or a couple of Evergreen libraries, and they wanted to get a quote in since we did postpone making a final decision until now, until this meeting. I wanted to give you a chance to take a look at these apps. So I've got, right now there's a link there. I am going to pull this after the meeting again because I don't want to leave the quotes hanging out in public space, but you can see information on the various features associated with each, as well as the pricing. And I have Windows set up. If you want, I can show you all, well, I can show you the Computertech app is in this first window, and then I have a custom version of Pines and a custom version of Hemlock for Pines, and then Hemlock itself, which is what we're currently using. Now, all three of these have iOS versions. I am running the Android versions on my computer, though, because iOS emulators get a little squirrely when you try to run this many of them, apparently, on a Windows machine. So let me ask this first. Do you actually want to look at the apps before you start discussing the features and pricing, or would you like to look at the features and pricing first?
Features and pricing.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now, because of how Hemlock works, it is it has a lot fewer bells and whistles. It is the work of one person who does it in his free time after he works at his library. The nice thing about Hemlock is it's actually built on top of the Evergreen API, which means it's as fast as Evergreen can be, and it can be built out using additional features that are already in Evergreen. Computertech uses a combination of SIT2 for authentication purposes and screen scraping for things like search. So if I pull these up side by side, you will notice a difference in things like search speeds if you look in the catalog, which I would like to show to you. Both apps offer multiple account support. The iOS version for Hemlock, we'll be releasing that here in a few weeks. It's not currently available, but it will be by the time that we would be up and running. Ken actually does all his own app feedback wrangling, so if there are any issues with the app, he actually deals directly with the patrons to try to address those problems, rather than us having to be involved. Computertech did not give me information on that. Both offered consortium branding and custom styling, digital library card replicas. Hemlock offers the ability for faceted or advanced searching in Android, but not iOS at this point. I have asked about that, and it's on his radar as a development project, but nobody's funded it as yet. So that would be something that we could talk to him about if we wanted it. Computertech exclusively offers keyword searching. They don't do any other type. Then we have a lot of information here where Computertech offers it because it's add-ons. Analytics, GPS navigation, guest access. I did ask about guest access. Actually, I asked about all of these features. Guest access is also on the radar for development with Hemlock. He just hasn't had enough interest from his clients yet to implement it. Calendar integration, individual library branding, library information pages, third-party content links, and push notifications are all included in the base price with Computertech. Where there are additional costs are iBeacon integration, in-app library card registration, and that uses, for supplementary documentation, that uses the phone's camera so people could take pictures of their license or mail and ship those to you without having to come into the library to get their library card. Multilingual support, self-checkout. In other words, you could take your phone into the stacks, check yourself out with it without ever having to approach a desk. And they are in the process of developing integration with ShareIt, so CERCs could be integrated. So all of those features, of course, have a price. Hemlock is definitely much less pricey. Basically, we pay him the initial amount, which he targeted to be, or estimated to be, about $5,000, and that's all we'd ever have to pay him if we don't want any upgrades. Obviously, I would recommend upgrades, and he estimates, again, part of it depends on the number of upgrades we request, but it's inexpensive. It's a few $1,000s a year for the upgrades, even if we just get materials that other libraries have paid for development. And if there's something we wanted developed just for us or for sharing with community, that seems to be part of his modus operandi as well, because he's an open source developer. He would share any features that we paid for development on with the community, anybody who is also a customer of his. Computertech, it's the base configuration, it is based on the number of libraries that participate. So if we wanted to poll the community and say half of the member libraries did not want the app, then we could reduce the amount of participants in the group and reduce the cost accordingly. Now, the pop-up that you're seeing right now says $5.99 per library. That is the rate if everybody participates. If we're talking half of the libraries, then it's $1,000 per library. So it's not a huge cost savings to make that switch. If we want self-check on phones, then it's a one-time upfront configuration fee to the consortium. Going forward, then, those rates for per library costs stay the same or will go up each year. So maintenance will be at the same rate or higher, depending on whether or not we're growing and or adding participants in the app. And then there are per library costs for some things. For iBeacon, for example, there are 3 different types of notices that you could send out, and it's $300 per year per notice type. If you do iBeacons, and they do sell their devices as well that you can preset. I wasn't fully familiar with what these are, actually. So just in case there's anybody else that was confused, iBeacons are low-powered, basically the Wi-Fi thingies that you can place around your community, and when someone with the app on their phone goes near it, they'll get a notice, an update, whatever you've programmed into your iBeacon system that day, week, depending on where they are. So it's a method of promotion. Our salesperson was really excited to explain how if you could talk your local grocery store into putting it in or something like that, you could potentially see a lot of pushes going through that way. Calendar integration, they have agreed to waive the per year cost, at least for the initial contract term. In-app card registration, that is an annual fee to the consortium. All of them that have strike-throughs the initial contracts, they have offered to waive those fees. And with the multilingual support, if we wanted to add, say, Spanish, it would be $1,500 a year to offer that opportunity. If we do self-checkout, there is a per library charge as well. I can't remember if I looped that one earlier or not. There is a minimum 5-year contract with Computertech, and they didn't give me their development rates, but from what I have been able to ascertain discussing with them, it's like a lot of firms. If there's a lot of interest in something, they'll go ahead and develop it, maybe at no extra charge, if there's enough interest across our customers. Otherwise, they can find a price tag for us.
Okay, here's my take. Bells and whistles are super nice, but we were ready to go with Hemlock, right?
We were, yeah.
Yeah.
I had anticipated announcing that at the conference, and I didn't actually hear from Computertech until like day of the conference.
And that's a huge price difference for bells and whistles. And then you're talking annual every year after that. I feel like Hemlock is right in line with what Evergreen is, kind of that grassroots, get it done. So for me, the second quote is not really in the running, my opinion.
Nancy, I'm down with that program. I mean, I totally see Hemlock being our people. Now, will we pay other developers like Equinox to do all those bells and whistles that we can get with the check boxes? I'm fine with that.
Well, I did ask about the ones that I knew were likely to be of the most interest. And he and I have been going back and forth on that. I did not hear from him today after our last round of clarification, so I don't want to extend anything too far. But I did ask about things like push notifications, which I know that's a really nice thing that a lot of people expect in an app. That is something that's on his radar. He estimated that right now that's about a $20,000 development project to get that into place. But it's something he's willing to think about, and we might be able to get someplace like Pines to go in together with us if that was the case, or one of his others. I mean, he has a lot of Evergreen clients. Those are his only clients, so he's working with a lot of them. CW Mars might also be interested, so we could potentially partner with them on that. I did ask about library information pages, because I know that would be a way of fixing or adding in a lot of the stuff that currently is missing from, sorry, I got the help desk open, that's not useful, that aren't in this list. And his thing was it would be very easy for us to pass people through to the Evergreen library information pages. So I haven't had a chance to talk to Lynn about this yet, but it might be interesting to see if we could further develop those pages. And that would be useful just generally, because it would also then appear whenever people logged into Evergreen proper. You know, possibly being able to do things like add a list of e-resources or a link to your event calendar. Because that would get that information to the patron. They would just have to click through to their browser then to see it.
The one thing that kind of jumps out to me too, apart from all the things that you guys are saying.
Ruth, you're too far away from your mic again.
One of the things that jumped out to me, in addition to all the things that have been mentioned and we've talked about previously, is with Computertech, that GPS navigation, that if we went with that, I don't, knowing some of the conversation that's gone into the community, in the community related to privacy issues and how location mechanisms work, seeing that there, I wonder if by not actually having that, in the Hemlock version, we'd have a lot more buy-in from a lot more people as far as both use. Obviously, Ken is using it, and other libraries are using it, but then also potential development beside him in the future without having to go through all that rigmarole that has happened in some other projects related to geographic proximity, location things.
Oops. And I'd also like to point out, I think it's really nice that he's gone ahead and just made this available open source that worked for our patrons already. I know we've been waiting for iOS to be there, and he hasn't been able to release that the same way just because of Apple's restrictions. But we have had access. So this is the vanilla Hemlock before any styling or selections have been made. This in the middle is Hines, and then this is Kenton County. Kenton County has, I didn't go ahead and log in yet because I wanted to show that their guest option works. You don't have to actually be logged in before you can search, which is one of the things I would like to see happen with Hemlock in the near future if we move forward. But while that's thinking, I would like to point out just how much faster that was in case you, I know they'd started at different times, but that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the API usage. Now, the vendor, Kapira Tech, has said that if we have full documentation for the API, they'd be happy to take a crack at using it. Unfortunately, I've talked to enough developers to know that we have no documentation for our API. That's one of the reasons why what Ken has done has been so impressive, because he's basically figured out the API on his own. That said, yes, the API needs better documentation for things like this, but you can see how they present. They're all a little different. Let's see, do we have any?
I really am fine with making a motion to go ahead with Hemlock.
Same here.
Yeah.
Second.
Or fifth, whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This sounds like
I do appreciate all the work with it, Anna. It's always good to have something to compare to and really think it through. But yeah, I think it's great.
Okay.
I think it'll serve us very well.
Like so too.
all right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to go with Hemlock for the mobile app. Is there any more discussion before we take a vote? All right. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion carries.
All right, let me pop back over here to the agenda. So the only other thing that I had was hopefully our next meeting, maybe in person. I know the governor will be making his big announcement Friday afternoon, so we'll see where we are then.
Actually, I think Nancy wanted to ask about extending the
Oh, that's right.
dates for the temporary cards, the digital access cards.
Thank you.
The ones that we're using, the ones we're doing right now where they can apply for the library card online and made their date, was it May?
May 1st.
May 1st. We were wondering if we could extend that for
As long
extending
as-
due dates.
Yeah, as long as you are, you used patron types that we've already defined, they'll just be part of that group anyway.
Oh, okay.
Because when we go through and extend them, we'll extend all those also.
Right. No, we were just saying we didn't know that when we were talking about extending the due dates on materials, I don't think we actually discussed also extending the expiration dates on the cards.
I think that's what was meant by patron accounts, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's the way I understood it.
That's how I
Okay.
understood it too.
Okay.
That was the way I understood it. So
Thank you for the clarification.
I do have a couple of things that needs to be brought up to, just as FYI, I'm in the middle of upgrading our development server to the newest version, which is 3. Well, not the newest version, which is 3.5 beta, but 3.4.2. So as soon as I get finished getting that upgraded, it'll be sometime this week, as I had to do several other upgrades before I could upgrade to the newest version. Once I get that, we'll know more about when we will expect to actually upgrade to 3.4.2. My original plan was to upgrade us in Memorial Day weekend, but with all the closures and everything, I want at least give y'all some time to actually look at 3.4.2 before we go live with 3.4.2 or 3. So that was, my original plan was Memorial Day weekend. We'll see what the governor's pocket, with everything that's going on, what date we can do this. It will take me a long weekend to do it, as I will have to upgrade several of the backend services, OS, the database, and everything like that before I can upgrade to 3.4.2. So it's going to be a large upgrade when I do it. So whenever it happens, it will be down at least, I'm saying, hopefully just 2 days, but it really all depends.
Thank you. I apologize for not giving you an opportunity to say that earlier.
It probably is not in your, it's because that's what I'm working on currently.
Lynn, would you be thinking then the next would you be thinking the next would be Independence Day weekend?
Yeah, that would be my,
It's also a weekend. That's why I bring that up.
that would be my thinking, because then we will all be shut down for Independence Day, and it will allow me to actually upgrade all the app servers and everything.
That informs me as well, so, okay.
And that'll give everybody a chance, because as soon as I get our development server upgraded, I'll be working on getting our migration servers and our training servers upgraded to 3.4.2 with our customizations, so that we can move forward with training on 3.4.2. A lot of the back-end stuff, a lot of it's back-end stuff, but there are some tweaks and things to the system that are patron-facing or staff-facing that are actually fairly cool. A lot of it is they've migrated a bunch of stuff over to the new Angular language.
Okay, is there anything else, or would we like to have a motion to adjourn?
I have one question.
Okay.
People are not allowed to do holds right now, right? Is that true?
You're muted, Anna.
Yeah, it's kind of working out that way. If you, the way holds work, you can't be targeted and be closed. So what I've been doing is where libraries are saying that they're still prepping holds in some way, shape, or form, I've been going back and actually pulling that setting. The help desk has been doing that as well. So I anticipate we're going to start phasing that back out here for everybody, but it takes a while to get in and change the settings, and it's kind of a slog because Evergreen really does not like turning it back off for some reason. I kind of thought we'd be able to do it as everybody was coming back when we kind of thought this was just going to be a couple of weeks. But yeah, no, I'm going to get addressed here shortly, because I know there's been some confusion about how very impactful that setting ended up being. It was more than we'd anticipated.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is that what we're waiting for?
Yes. Or other questions. Yeah.
Seconded.
All right. I think we can call this meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you, everybody.
Be safe.
Hang in there, everybody.